Hello, and welcome to episode 31 of the IP3 podcast. I'm Kevin, joined today by Alex Becker, and there's plenty to talk about. We both played some ProQuests over the weekend. Um, we just had a pretty widespread ban announcement. I think every format was touched. Every 1v1 sanctioned format was touched in this announcement. Um, we got a whole bunch of high seas spoilers. Not enough to do any productive amount of brewing or testing or theorizing of what the limited environment looks like, but there are some cool cards that we're going to talk about. And then, after we go through all that, we'll talk a bit about, the what we expect from the nationals meta as things shake out and impacts of the bans on the LL format.
Kevin's
Um,
favorite topic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just couldn't believe we forgot about it on the last one, but it's okay. It always comes back. It always comes back. Yeah. So I think we each played one ProQuest over the weekend. We unfortunately dodged each other, or fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you looked at it. But I played one on Saturday. You played one on Sunday.
Yep.
How'd yours go?
Well, I brought Fang. Uh, Decided that just wanted some more practice with that after playing it at Armory. I was having success. I was like, well, let's take it a step up. And then of course get paired round one to Decano. So it's like, oh, this my deck that runs a ton of reds. Not great at Decano, but I made it close. I made him have to find it off the top, but he did. So lost round one, which is not how you want to start. But then I got round two versus a new. I got round three versus KO. What was round four? Round four was against Prism. Was I actually was able to pull that one out as well. And then the last round of Swiss was the Fang Mirror. My buddy Ian, who also brought Fang, and we had been talking about the deck for a long time. We've played a couple mirrors at this point. Um, we joked before the game. It's like, all right, now we both just want to draw three pledge fealty turn zero. So he won the roll. I had to go first, and I finished my turn, and he goes, oh wait, and he plays two pledge fealties.
Oh wait.
I was like, no, that's not fair. Um, the turning point in that game, I feel like how it always is the Kabuto block.
Mm, yeah.
Um, he took a turn that he took a bunch of damage from me after I blocked a little bit, and so he had a 5 card hand with 3 fealty. I was like, I my next hand has 2 no block cards in it, so I'm just gonna block with Kabuto here, assuming that it will shut down your turn. And it did. He attacked me for 4 and then passed with 5 cards. So then I was able to chunk in some more damage. Then he had his big turn, which evened up the life totals a little bit. But at that point, I had the tempo and was able to finish it out from there. But at that point, we were both locked for top 8. So
It's the best
uh,
feeling. The team kill when you're both already locked is the best feeling. I've actually
yeah,
I think I've done that with Dan two different times. There's actually both battle hardens he won. We maybe got paired in like the last round of Swiss. I know it happened at least in the first one, but yeah, it's nice when you're like, oh wait, oh we're locked. Okay, cool. This is just for seeding. It's fine. Let's go.
yeah.
And
So then,
good.
sorry. Then in top 8, my round one, I was 5th seed playing against the 4th seed Florian. And I, believe it or not, I've never played that matchup before. I know how it should go in theory, um, and I think I could have gotten it. I was just a little bit too greedy with the my flight path usage. I didn't use it when I could have got like 4 or 5 damage out of it, and then I ended up losing with my Florian opponent at like 4 health. So it's like, well, maybe if I would have used that, because then the card that I saved ended up getting plow under it anyways. So it's like I should have just used it. Maybe the
That
game would have
that's
been
been a
different, but
big Florian lesson for me, or I guess just Earth Heroes in general with Plow Under, and even in against Averteds this weekend. But like, if if you can get like remotely reasonable value out of a card, or like add it to the turn, just do it, because like you're gonna get plowed under, stuff's gonna get put onto the bottom, and it's almost like playing into Assassin's where like if I can use this card, I'd love to not have it in Arsenal because I don't want to just get Leave No Witness out of the game.
yeah. I was also my hand was super awkward turn 0 because I had to go first. So I ended up having to attack him to just like get cards out of my hand because
Hmm.
I wasn't gonna be able to do anything if it went back to my turn, which then let him block with Earth cards to then decompose on his very first turn. That was also not ideal, but that's okay. So I lost that one, but Ian on the other side of the bracket played against the stack Florian, the Scepter,
Hmm.
which spoiler alert is no more. Um, but we'd actually talked about that match, and it's like, yeah, you just blow them up because they can't block as much damage as you could do in a turn. So he did. He got that one, and then his next round was against Count Your Blessings New. Spoiler alert. Rip. That's gone too. And he ended up just exploding that deck as well. And then played my Florian opponent in the finals, and he was able to take it down. His first ProQuest win, and got Fang some LL points.
Hell yeah,
So
dude deserves
cool.
it. He's been the longest standing warrior stand, I would say, that I have known. Like at least with you and Rourke, each of you were like ranger and then also warrior, like kind of always had two. But Ian has not really strayed. It's been Bolton forever, and so I'm so happy for you guys that Fang is a real tech, and yeah,
That's real good.
stoked that he gets some elo points for his new
I
fave.
I think Fang is probably the best aggro deck right now.
A bold assertion, which we will have to address later when we're talking about national
Yeah,
CC meta. Uh, but yeah, shout out Ian, nice job, congrats. Uh, I also played a ProQuest on the weekend as my what I think I played like two RTNs, and then this was the only ProQuest I played all season because I thought I might go to the Sunday one, but I knew that even if I won everything, I'm not going to Singapore. It's not happening. So didn't bother with the usual slate of events that I otherwise would. Um, but I actually so Alex has still at the moment has my Aurora deck that well no it's in a go between right now, but Alex took my deck to London and has my Runeblade equipment, so I don't have my Runeblade equipment. So Florian, I decided not to play uh, on that Saturday. So at that point, it was basically between KO and the old Hatchet Hurricane Dorinthia herself. So I actually um, really been liking the card Sharpen Senses in that deck. So I got Hatchet Story put together and took it out, and it was gonna be partially just testing of yeah, it's been a while since I've played in the slightly higher competition level games of Fab, and then also see how Hatchet Story fares into current real decks in the metagame.
did you miss
Uh,
any tunic triggers?
I don't think so. I missed Dynamo once when I was playing Pat Eshke, and fortunately he killed me by like one extra point of damage, so that it wasn't the difference in me dying when he killed me. But yeah, that one was not ideal. But I think I was good on Tunic counters. But yeah, so I ended up playing. I ended up making top eight. My first round was against Syndra. I got that one. This is sort of exactly the kind of deck that Hatchets is looking to prey upon. Um, and round two, I played Pat and I lost. I had a there was a hand where if I had I Crown of Providence to waste something else looking for a blue, hit another red, and so on my turn I pitched two reds and used Tunic, where if I hit a blue, I get to play Spill Blood and yeah, like have like a really real turn instead of this like mopey like okay cool here's 7 or 8 value, but um and that proved to be the difference in the game. But it was really close. I on average the hatchet stack is probably favored, I would guess, but sometimes one stealth attack comes in and gets +9 and you die.
Yeah, I do tend to like the dual wield warriors into assassins in general.
hmm so I lost that one. Round three, I played against Florian, which I expected to be a worse matchup than it felt in the games that I played against it. Um, I was down on life early, which is weird because it's very much not where the hatchet deck wants to be. But like I came back from like a 12-ish life deficit at some point, um, and this game like ground down at the end like no other. The last few turns was their one card hand sending two rune chants and a reaping blade and getting two cards from me, and then I send my two card hand back, sending hatchet go again, hatchet and take three cards and reset dynamo, and we did that exchange like two or three times in a row, and I hit a hand that drew my one of route, and at no point in that game had route been seen. So it was like it was right at the bottom of the deck, which is where absolutely where you want it to be. So he hadn't seen route or any similar kind of attack reaction. But if there's a D react in hand, like taking that gambit might cost me the game rather than win it for me. But we were so far through the decks that I felt like they were largely spent, and I was just like, I think I'm more likely to whiff on the two card hand on like getting the two pieces that I need, or like having blues and a three block, and then the other two cards being a functional hatchet's hand, than he is to not draw a blue on a given turn. And so I was like, nah, this game ends now. Either this route play works or I get blown out and then I probably lose. Um, but yeah, so it was just a blue and a route, and I said hatchet for two gets a three block, I think, or possibly even like a three block on equipment, and I just route whatever the three block was, and that was that.
Got
So
him.
definitely stole one there. My opponent played phenomenally. It was a very intense game, but sometimes you just gotta hit that lucky top deck to seal it up. So at that point, I was 2-1, and then I got paired into Adam Francais, who is not. I'm definitely was not going to Singapore. He is not definitely not going to Singapore. So I scooped there, and we played a game for funsies, which I did manage to win. Um, it was close. The fact that Dynamo resets let you two card block that first Herald for 7 is invaluable. Let me tell you. Um, and then the other real difference there is they start with 8 less life than you. So even though you're not a great, a particularly great aggressive deck with the hatchets, you know the amount of no blocks they have and everything, I didn't have a terrible time uh, forcing damage through and stuff. So it
Also,
ended
it's
up.
really awkward. It's really awkward for Prism to block the the hatchets and the fire veins too, like the dual wield warrior weapons. Like,
Mhm.
you gonna like let this angel die to this hatchet for two? Like, ideally not. But are you gonna give me a herald to block it instead? It's like
Yeah.
you don't really want to do that either. So
Yep.
it's weird.
Um, but that one also was pretty close at the end, and then in a key moment where you know if he draws like draws a good hand into my very like I think I was playing a blue blade runner was kind of my turn, um, and he ripped four no blocks, uh, which one was light of soul, so could have done some stuff to get a prevention, but not stopping two hatchets that way. Um, and then in the last round, I played against. So I played against Gary, the Florian who you and Ian played the next day. So my round five was against Gary, also on Florian. Um, and that match also felt a little closer. There was uh, a few not even necessarily decision points, but just the way the game shook out that pushed it more in his favor. Um, I drew the route early in that game, and it got face purgatoried, just kind of an arbitrary value face purgatory that ate, sort of my surprise finisher or my hopeful second cycle surprise finisher. Um, so that was unfortunate. And then the resources didn't want to line up with the spillbloods, or like I drew two of them in the same hand, and so it was just clunky and made it harder to maximize what the spillbloods could do. And that one still ended up pretty close. All of my games, even all my losses on the game on the day were like 2-1, 1-1, like at the very end. Um,
Hatches
so I
is a
ended up
grinder.
losing. Yeah, but then in the craziest part where I figure when I go, scoop into loss for those last two rounds, I'm 2-3. And I'm like, I was packing up and going home. I went and I got my packs. I got 6 packs. I opened all hunted, and I got a Marvel Fealty and an EA Provoke. And I sold the Marvel Fealty for $150 on the spot. And I was like, I have won today. And then I find out in the silliest fashion that I made top eight at 2-3. Uh, all all of my losses were top eight players, and I was 2-1 before those losses happened. And and the other, um, yeah, it just the breakers fell. So it was a 17-person 5 round tournament. Was it? So there was a
Oh,
lot
okay,
of
okay.
the after round one. There was tons of pair ups, pair downs, pretty consistently, and then between pair up, pair downs going wrong for the wrong half and people dropping and stuff, I ended up in top eight at 2-3, which was very silly.
That's
Uh,
funny because we had a 31 player 5 round tournament.
uh, and yeah, so I squeaked into top eight, and my opponent in top eight was Verdance. And fortunately, I know you, and I had talked to you specifically about what I do against Verdance as the Hatchet Story deck. So I went in there with uh, two Null Runes and two Arcanite equipments. So I had AB2 or AB5 plus Spell Void 2, Guardwell 2, and potentially Battle Worn 2. Uh, and actually, the Guardwell, getting access to the Arcanite equipment, like early on, I was just like threw a 2 block and both of those equipments in front of a Command and Conquer, and the Verdance was shook. Like it wasn't thinking about the fact that my really heavy AB suite of armor could actually help defend.
Yeah.
But that was pretty clutch. Um, so yeah, played into the Verdance. I had two Oasis or three Oasis and two Poison the Wells in the deck, and I'm like, okay, so I need this at the right time. I need to not get baited with it, but also I can't just be like, oh, I found it really early. Let me put this in here and leave it forever because I know they have plow unders to clear that stuff out. So I felt bad because our game took forever because effectively what my deck has to do in that scenario is play defensively enough to not get comboed, um, but I also don't play a ton of aggression, and even when I do, I'm just throwing a wet noodle at a there was like probably 30 plus points of life gain that happened on the other side of the table. So I needed to just chew through the deck, chew through the life total, and get to the point where I have a real weapon and you don't, and win the game that way. Um, and it was a slog. We this went on for a long time. I was able to like Oasis a what's that scepter name that like amps the next thing still?
Surgeon Aethertide.
Surgeon Aethertide. I Oasis AB2 plus Oasis Surgeon Aethertide for 7 early on. Um, that was just scary enough that I'm like, cool, here's good value, and um,
That's
at
I
some
mean,
point,
the Dory just has to live through the combo turn, and as long as you can do that at like a reasonable life total, then you are in a good spot.
yeah, I think that was I think I tried to force my deck to play a little too aggressively in the matchup, and I had spots where I could have prioritized staying a little healthier and pushing a little less damage. And in hindsight, I would have just because it's like I have the actual inevitability here. You're trying to aggro me, but the only way you can do that is comboing me. So I just needed to, I could have sat back a little more. Um, but it came down to like less than 10 cards in both decks, and I used all of my hate cards, and the fourth copy of the life amping Verdance card that I just don't know card names
Rampant
anymore.
growth,
Rampant Growth, yeah, the fourth copy of that, thanks to
plume of
Plume
Evergrowth.
of Evergrowth. That one I do. That one I do. Play it in Florine, it helps. Um, Thanks to the fourth copy, amped a 3 cost spell to 5 when I had a blue and I was at 1. The final combo was for 8, and I was able to I Oasised, but didn't AB further because it turned me back to AB5. So I'm like, if I just fade this moment, I'm at 1 kind of for the rest of this game, so I'm on AB5 for the foreseeable future. But their hand had the way to get through. So that was like a solid, a good 50-55 minute game, I think. Um, wasn't able to do it, but it was weird to end a day with a top 8 where my final record was like 2-4 too. That was peculiar. Um, but the deck was sweet. It performed better than I expected, and all of my losses were like by the thinnest of margins. Where if I change like 6 cards in the deck and play a little tighter on the day, all of those, I probably win 2 more games. So yeah, we'll see where if Hatchets gets any new toys. So far, nothing that I've seen, um, outside of maybe Flying High, but no big splashy cards yet. But
Fair
yeah,
enough.
so that was my lone PQ attempt. Got the top 8 and then fell on my
Like the first
face.
time you played in a long time, right?
I played in RTNs. I played two RTNs, but
But that was like
a while
March.
ago. Yeah. You know what I did in April? I went to Texas and visited family, where I got strep throat and was just down for the count with strep throat for like most of the time. But uh, yeah, it's a fun trip. And then actually, it's weird because I was looking at the calendar, and after nationals at the start of June, there's kind of nothing. There's like a skirmish season somewhere in there, but there's kind of nothing, at least outside of what there's a calling, um, and then World Premiere Montreal in September. But the next ProQuest season is October. It's like there's a pretty big gap coming up for us competitively outside of like the calling Kansas City. But
All right, should we move on?
yeah, yeah. All right. Ban announcement happened today. Bunch of stuff got touched. We'll go through one format at a time. Alex alluded to the CC changes. Count your blessings banned permanently, all colors. Um, the logic being were there was a developmental tax to it in the way that whenever you want to make a new good defensive card, it's like, okay, well, does this deck with this good defensive card running a bunch of count your blessings, is that just too good? And so they, are getting rid of the problem child and moving on. And you know, count your blessings was neat. It was a neat experiment. It's kind of neat that it still will be in LL, but its days are done in CC.
And
Uh,
Blitz.
and Blitz, true. Um, Germinate, Scepter of Pain, both banned. Germinate makes me sad because I have the EA ones and they're really cool and it's a cool card. But they clearly, I'm sure they clearly don't like the Scepter of Pain combo stacking play style that Channel Millennium Tree offers to the Florian deck. And then it, it sounds like Germinate a blue Earth block 3 that just is such incredible late game equity in any kind of grindy matchup. And if anybody's played against or as Florian, you know that deck doesn't lack for sort of good attrition ability with, you know, grasp, make 2 rune chance, send sword. All of my blue hands are 1 card fives for the rest of forever. Um, so Germinate was the rich getting richer in that regard. So they'll
Also,
take it down a notch.
according to Brian, there's a expansion slot card in High Seas that we haven't seen yet that would pair with Germinate and apparently be something they're not comfortable having together in the same format.
Yeah, yeah. So
So,
interested to see what that is. Uh, but yeah, so a little taking a little off the top of Florian. Honestly, I think it is helpful for people deciding like sideboard plans and stuff. Scepter not existing sort of limits what like your game plan into Scepter Florian versus the standard sort of mid range or even more aggressively slanted Florians. Like there's a pretty big delta there. So Scepter being gone uh, reduces the the considerations for your game plan and sideboarding. Um, and then the biggest news, you can all thank two-time battle-hardened champion Dan Grossclose for this one. Uh, Bonds of Ancestry Red is unbanned. Katsu is back on the menu. Uh, Now that I'm thinking about it, are the other colors of it still banned?
yes,
Okay. So just reds are back. Yeah, all right.
yes,
So that honestly is the errata that like people originally were asking for, where they were like, "Oh, if this card was just a majestic, it'd be fine. Like it'd be good. It's still obviously good, but it wouldn't be, game breaking." But yeah, so now there
yeah.
will be some bonds of ancestries in a game, but not a trillion of
So if you see Dan at Vegas, he's playing Katsu.
them.
So
uh, yeah, I can't imagine him not with this unban. But yeah, Katsu's a real boy again, which is exciting. But yeah, honestly, like as far as actual shakeup to CC, like these bands, I don't think they don't change it drastically. Like nothing earth shattering, nothing. No deck is just dead, which they rarely do that anyways. Just
yeah, I think Florian is still good. I think while some people liked Count Your Blessings and like that play style, I think at least the majority of the players that I know just found it boring that any deck could run that. So you have to, if you want to deal with it, you have to bring like a sideboard for Count Your Blessings. And then every time you sit down, you have to decide, is this, since it's a generic card, is this Dorinthia opponent? Is this Dash opponent? Is this Jarl opponent? Is this Florian opponent? Are they playing Count Your Blessings? If so, I need to sideboard like this. If not, then I just sideboard very differently and do this. So I think a lot of players just didn't like that because when they chose wrong, it it would feel bad. Uh, so I'm happy it's gone, just to take that
it,
mental tax off of me.
yeah,
But
and yeah, long term, it's probably better. It's still even the logic behind them getting rid of it pointed a lot more to the actual development costs than the actual gameplay problems, which there's both. We know that there's both. Um, but yeah, it's just a long term consideration for the game. And honestly, you know what? Count Your Blessings is a reasonable card to exist if they like print a cleric class and they're like, dope, here's your cleric card, Count Your Blessings. You can do this because you're a cleric and you gain life and that's your shtick.
yeah, if it wasn't generic and if it was like class specific, it would be first of all easier to test with because it's like okay,
Mm-hmm.
we won't make really great defensive cards for like this class because they can gain so much life. Um, then like playing against a cleric or whatever, like oh they are like quite likely to be on Count Your Blessings. Maybe they're not, but they have the option versus every hero you sit down against it being an option.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to Blitz, Channel Lightning Valley, Flicker Wisp, both banned. Flicker Wisp, when Aurora hit LL, they mentioned that Flicker Wisp, in hindsight, they, if they could go back in time, they would have banned Flicker Wisp prior to the RTN season, where Aurora just sprinted to the LL finish line way too soon. Uh, this is just that same ban, different format. Especially, it's honestly even more impactful of a card and combo with Arc Lightning in Blitz, where damage is worth twice as much because everybody has half as much. Makes perfect sense. And then Channel Lightning Valley getting banned in Blitz also makes sense because it's uh, you know it takes a second to get you to that value, but it you know the first turn it just replaces itself. You're like, okay, well this was sort of nothing. Well, it's not necessarily downside, and maybe there was upside to playing out a lightning card on that turn. But the next turn, if you connect on the Channel Lightning Valley and you get to draw that card, that's just cash in. That's you spent a card to get you got one extra card this turn, and it's effectively a tome in that way. And while it is a very different shape than the cards that just say draw two, it sort of does that for you just with a weird delay, but the sort of the same net effect. And so they're just slowing Aurora down in Blitz as well.
And then if you can damage your opponent on their turn, it's even more value because if you draw 3 cards off of it,
Yeah,
real
then
gross.
then it's beyond filthy. Count Your Blessings also banned in Blitz, same logic as CC. But the real Blitz, the biggest and realest Blitz shakeup is Stormstrider's banned once again. I think it was gone previously, or at least like suspended at some point in the past.
Yep.
Um, Stormstriders, you know, it stings because it definitely is the most wizardy equipment that feels like the wizard thing. Um,
But taking an extra turn in a 20 life format
yeah, it
is very
is
good.
again also very very gross. It makes sense given that they are again sort of trying to slow it down. Although I have to say I'm very glad to see a change in direction as far as what they're trying to do with Blitz. Um, and this announcement also makes it very clear that Living Legend is their second real constructed format that they will try and balance as about as well as classic constructed. Um, and
And also in this, they say that uh, they're letting wizards cool down while they wait for a more suitable, more blitz balance replacement for Stormstriders.
mm, yeah, I
So
mean honestly, like if Stormstrider like what it costs one to activate right now, like maybe a three cost Stormstriders is good enough and more fair enough that it works. But yeah, we'll see. And with Stormstriders gone, that lets them lean a little more into other cards that let you, you know, do actions at instant speed potentially. Like can open up some other avenues. Uh, Living Legend. This was the biggest set of changes. Um, the headliners, Crown of Seeds, gone. Carrion Husk, gone. It's been a Chain Starvo meta for a minute. It's not the first time that they've been, sort of 1 and 1A.
probably won't be the last.
It was definitely very unlikely to be the last. But they join Kraken's Aether Vein as the only 3 cards fully outright banned in the Living Legend format. It goes further than that, though, as the Runegate Chain version is going to be all but dead with the restriction of Deadwood Dirge. Um, they also restricted both Call and Succumb to Temptation. Uh, Basically, they were like, yeah, it seemed like Chain was the best aggro deck, the best disruptive deck, and also the best late game deck all at the same time, which, sort of a recipe for a best deck scenario. Call
Turns
and
out,
Succumb to Temptation are very obviously, they're Vincent cards. That's what they are fair in a deck that is of that speed, or fair-ish, fair, reasonable in a deck that is Vincent speed. But the text box on chain is and will always be absurd. And yeah, call was just a little too much perfect late game inevitability. Um, and it makes sense. Succumb stings a little more, but at the same time, I understand the axis they were trying to approach this from. Um, so yeah, so Runegate Chain is basically dead. With Husk gone, that means your replacement options are either Bloodsheath Skeleton or Dyadic Carapace. Personally, I'm very excited to try Skeleton in that slot because I'm a real big fan of Douse in Runeblood. and that is a card that is like Spellblade Assault on drugs, and so I'll be playing with that a little bit. But if that doesn't really seem worth it, then suddenly Carapace is just your free. I always have Arcane Barrier 2, Temper 2 chest equipment, and life will go on. The losing the disruption is going to be huge for Chain's ability to race other aggressive decks. Um, but maybe that just means he has to go a little bit deeper into his cards and run the 1 for 5 that uh, lets you sacrifice a shackle and force them to discard if it hits. It's a majestic. I opened it at the Rosetta World premiere and I cannot think of the name right now. Oh, this is what I get for
Don't look
being
at me for
pushing the game
Runeblade
this
cards. I
much.
can give you anything else. Don't look at me for the Runeblade cards.
I'm gonna find it. I'm pulling it up. I'm so embarrassed. I should know this one. Snuff out. Yeah, snuff out. Snuff out's good. It's not as good as those other 2 cards, but if a bit of disruption is really what you need, there's still more there. Uh, not to mention going really far down the barrel and looking at like consuming volition, uh, which could be reasonable in a world where we have a bit more go again for Rosetta Thorn than we used to have. So it's a lot more reasonable to like force Arcane through and then end your chain on consuming volition. But that's
But
neither here nor there.
talking about the disruption, it's unbanned or unrestricted rather. Hypothermia. Is Icelander back?
Maybe.
I haven't played enough Icelander to tell you yes or no for sure, but
Yeah. Icelander is the single deck in Living Legend that if they could have it still be restricted for everyone else, but Icelander gets to play 3 Warmongers and 3 Hypothermias, I'd be kind of on board with that. Like that's the one deck where it feels like it's reasonable to let them do it. But you know, Icelander has got CLF back last year, Hypothermia joining the fray. That's just you know more turn cycles per game that she can just steal a ton of value. That said, there are some counters depending on what hero you are, right? If you're a ninja, tons of your stuff already has natural go again anyways. If you're a Runeblade, you have access to 1 copy of Deadwood Dirge, but also Condemned to Slaughter, um, and
yeah, there's just a lot more aura destruction than there was in the Uprising days.
yeah, yep. Um, so yeah, hopefully that gives well, it will give a much needed boost to Icelander. We'll see if it's enough. Um, but it's still nice that she has that tool back in her toolkit. Um,
Also, according to this the Living Legend update, they announced that in order to become a world champion, you're gonna have to play Living Legend in Philadelphia.
yeah,
So that's pretty cool.
yep. Time to get with the program. LL is LL will be this game's modern slash legacy format. So,
So is it gonna be Draft CC LLCC, or what do we think?
what did they do for the first one? Draft
The
CC
first one
CC
was
Blitz,
yeah,
or was it? No, no, it was Draft CC, Draft Blitz CC Top 8, right?
I don't
I
think we
know I know
drafted
the final
twice.
rounds of San Jose were Blitz because I bombed out so
Yeah,
bad I never got to play my deck. uh,
I don't know. It was too long ago. I've played too many tournaments since then.
but yeah, so if you want to be world champion this year, you gotta figure out this whole LL game. I'm excited for the focus that means they're gonna have on the format going forward, um, and especially with the recent upgrades to Gem and the fact that you can submit. They get deck lists for all the pro quests now. So, they can aggregate data of like, okay, cool. Well, this deck is way overperforming, and this is the card that is a guaranteed lock three of in, 99.9% of whatever deck. It'll help inform their ban decisions or see sort of the effects of their banning decisions. Um, and they also said that the next ProQuest season in October will at least be partially Living Legend format. So it's coming whether you like it or not. Time to figure it out.
Speaking of
Um,
LL, I just wanted to touch on the battle harden from London that we forgot to talk about on our London wrap up. I figure a lot of people saw uh, like the top eight was Chain winning, Bravo, Bravo, Chain, Prism, Chain, Bravo, Bravo. But what I think a lot of people didn't see, because I was at that event and walking around, and uh, my friend Lucas playing Briar unfortunately lost two of his winning ins, and then my other friend Jesse playing Zen lost his winning in, and I know there was a Prism also uh, at the tables that lost their last round winning in. So if those games had gone the other way, it wouldn't have looked like it was such a two hero event. Like it could have been Chain, Bravo, Briar, Prism, Zen, Prism, Bravo, or something like that.
yeah,
If
you
games
go
go the other
from
way, but
3 hero top eight to 5 hero top eight, and that the optics on that just present a
yeah,
lot better.
yeah,
Um,
because a lot of people just saw the top eight and were like, oh, well, it's just these three heroes, these two heroes, and then a random Prism.
mhm.
When it was really there were other heroes competing and winning, just lost out in the last round.
Yeah, it should
But
be it should be fun to watch what happens. Crown of Seeds in Starvo, that card being gone is it was just the biggest contributor to his consistency. If you have your hand and you're like, oh, I have two Earth cards, one Lightning card, and no Ice cards. Okay, well this spare Earth card I will use to cycle my arsenal out, and oh cool, I hit, great. Like it just it was a whatever sort of fifth card you needed a lot of the time. And not to say that that top deck is always going to get you there, but it will get you there enough of the time that it was just such a powerful consistency engine for a deck that will only ever get more consistent with the addition of new elemental cards. Um, it it makes sense. It makes sense. Like hitting Husk makes sense. Um, Chain's tough to disrupt, and even without Husk, still has a pretty damn impressive suite of equipment available to him. So I you know, while it makes me sad on the one hand, I get it. And Chain will adapt. He's still going to be good. That text box is still broken. So
yeah,
yeah,
he doesn't need anything other than his text box.
yeah. That's
Uh,
like people like I understand what people are like. Oh yeah, no. When it was no holds barred, nothing's banned, and it was all Starvo in the top eight. But I still hold that like Chain's text box is still better than Starvo's text box. I think Starvo had access to better tools because he has, two or three times the card pool of the Shadow Runeblade.
and
Uh,
Awakening when nothing was banned.
exactly. Awakening, the full suite of Hypothermia, the full suite of Warmongers, all Oakenolds, like all of those power cards, um, just unrestricted in there. And yeah,
With my
that's fair.
crush,
But
star of the show.
Chain's text box is still just the most absurd. When Blood Debt cards exist, it's so damn strong. Um,
Uh, for
Last
those
but not
for
least,
you,
if you play Commoner, Reality Refractor is banned, so no
I think I
fracking.
heard I think I heard cries of rejoicement from the commoner players.
I'd
They
believe
could
that,
finally play anything that's not Enigma.
yeah. But it is is Iris of Reality that much worse?
um,
I mean, I guess it's like
yes.
at minimum a point every turn. And I guess if it is also still good, then you know, next band announcement in early July might have Iris of Reality on here.
Well, the reason that Refractor was so good is that Enigmas you could play oh manifestations. The one that makes a spectral shield with counters on it.
Spec Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
That costs two, and Reality Refractor costs two. But since it's the spectral shield you're swinging with, Enigma says it costs one less. So two cards you can swing eight,
Okay. I hadn't factored in
and then also
the
you get one
spectral
defense
shield. Yeah.
on the back end. Uh,
Oh,
versus if you try to
here's
do
my
that with
two
Iris
card
of
9 in
Reality.
commoner. Yeah, solid.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, that makes
yeah,
sense.
that's why it's so good.
Congrats, commoner. I hope your format is great. Maybe someday I will play it, but I can't say that I have.
Desire.
Yep. Well, I mean, like Desire, sure, but like compared to the other formats, none,
Yeah.
none compared to the other formats.
I don't
Uh,
think against Commoner. I just have more interest in the other stuff. So,
yeah, same, same.
but I
Uh,
know Commoner is other people's jam.
hmm And then the last big update as a part of this ban announcement, um, to avoid the, you know, Aurora is a 6 month old. Okay, I guess more like 8 months. But heroes speedrunning to LL much too quickly. Um, they have announced that during the first year of a hero's legality, their living legend points that they earn will be halved. In their second year, they will have no multiplier on the living legend points that they accrue. And then after year two, heroes will accrue living legend points with a 1.5 times multiplier. To help promote some more churn on the lower echelons of heroes that have been around for a while.
Azalea. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, like she was already close anyways, and still creeping
Right.
towards it.
Right. Right.
Um,
I'm just saying it
yeah,
takes a lot less events now.
yeah.
She's at 800 something, I think.
They also went and updated like nationals living legend points that they award. So like the United States still gives out like 50 because ours is obviously way massive compared to most other ones. But now the other ones, depending on the size and cap of them, they give like 5, 15, or 25. So they don't quite. You won't have a 32 person nationals event awarding half the LL points that um, the U.S. event is worth. So that'll
Yep.
it's all in the sake of normalization and helping you know both players and LSS themselves having a better idea of hero trajectories towards Living Legend.
They also did uh, like a rounding thing. Right now, all the points that a hero would get are rounded to the whole number, so math is easy. But if you keep rounding up so much, it eventually inflates the point total enough that they're just gonna let Gem track all the fancy numbers. Um, but you can read more about that in the
Yeah,
uh,
I think they said that
thing if you want.
this ProQuest season should have been awarding 2.51 Living Legend points per win, but because the rounding that they were forced to do because their whatever system they were using for it on the back end couldn't handle it quite yet, uh, was rounded to 3, so they keep whole numbers and don't have to worry about it. But they'll be able to handle decimals and fractions in the future, and I think that will also be a net benefit for uh, accurate expectations of heroes ascending to living legend. All right, so that's bans. We also got the biggest swath of high seas spoilers that we have gotten yet. Um, Tons of things. We got some majestics and some rares for Puffin. We also got sort of all of the weapons. We're not quite sure where Gravy Bones' weapon is at this point. Maybe it's in the
I think
armory deck. Unclear.
I think yeah, I think my vote is that it's either in the expansion slot because it was too good for limited, kind of like Clave for the Hunted, or it's in the armory deck.
Yeah,
So then for limited, he just has the compass, which allows his stuff to his watery grave stuff to go again.
I
Which can
guess it
be
makes sense
reasonable.
too if that the you know Dromai didn't have a weapon even in limited. So it was, you get down to it and you're like, okay, well, my weapon are the fact that I play allies, so I can attack you for 3, and then you have to hit this, so like every ally is also defense and life gain. Um, and that's probably, I imagine that's the idea for it, at least in the limited environment. I do expect, if nothing else, that there is probably, a very basic pirate cutlass uh, in the armory deck, but we'll see.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, Puffin's weapons are interesting. One seems a little weaker than the other, in my opinion, or I guess depends on how cog heavy your Puffin deck is. But I think Spitfire is the deck that I'm, or the weapon that I think has the most potential uh, in the deck. And it's a mechanologist two-handed gun, base power of 2. Action, tap this and a cog you control, attack. When this attacks, you may tap a cog you control. If you do, the attack gets +1. So it can sort of be a 0 for 3. Well, okay. Tapping cogs obviously isn't resources. It is effectively resource adjacent, but it's not resources. So a pseudo 0 for 3 chain ender for whatever you're doing on your turns is pretty good. Um, but
But
the
also,
Oh, good.
sorry, I don't know if you were gonna mention it or not. The cog in the machine, the basically Puffin's end game. If you're running out of cards, you could play cog in the machine, which will create 2 golden cog tokens, and then you can tap one of those cogs you control to put the card cog in the machine back in the bottom of the deck, and then you have a cog to tap for a Spitfire, so you can attack for 2, and then assuming the cog in the machine is the only card left in your deck, you can just keep doing that, assuming you have infinite life total and don't ever have to block. So
Safe assumption. Safe assumption.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Um,
it's an option.
yeah. It's nice that it's there. You know, the likelihood that it ends up mattering with any frequency is probably pretty low, but still good forward thought in the design of that card. Um, we saw, I think, most, if not all, of Gravy Bones's um, allies, which I don't want to go through all of them because there's a ton, and I haven't read them thoroughly enough to specifically,
Yeah, we're just not
you
going
know,
to go through all the
have a good
spoilers
notion
in
on it.
this video.
Yeah, not quite yet. We'll get there when we do the limited set review.
Also,
I think,
pause. Sorry.
yeah,
One,
sure.
Cog in the Machine is also not a pirate card. It's a mechanologist. So Dash IO can use it as well, and then crank those cogs as they come in to then get 2 action points and then 2 counters on her gun to then shoot for 4, and then put Cog in the Machine back in the bottom of her deck. So you could, as Dash IO, who is oftentimes running out of cards, Cog in the Machine means that you can have 4 damage every turn,
That's pretty
spending
cool.
no cards.
That's
Yeah,
pretty cool. Um, yeah, the only allies I specifically want to touch on, Rigor Mortis. I think A is a hilarious. I think it's my favorite pun of the bunch. But it's a so all of the allies for Gravy Bones, they're all yellow action ally cards. They do not have a defense value. You cannot block with them. They all have a health value. They need to be attacked. They don't have phantasm, so there's no popping involved. So all of these, you know, all of these allies need to be taken care of the old-fashioned way with damage hitting them or some magical card that says destroy target ally on it, which we will talk about in a second. Um, but Rigor Mortis is a 6 power, 1 health, 1 cost ally with a 1 cost action to tap it and attack for 6. Um, and that card's a common, so I think A, it's going to be um, really sought after for draft. Just it's a big number attached to something that is preemptively playing defense for you already. Um, I think it's gonna be probably terrible like in the mirror matches, but into regular heroes it'll be pretty good. And then there's another one that's Limpet Hopalong that is a zero cost, one health, two power ally with a one cost tap to attack, but its attack has go again. And I think that's the only one that has go again on the attack, at least on its own, like naturally.
Yeah,
Um, and so that's gonna do that card will be very important also in the mirror matches, the same way as Vilai was pretty huge to catch you up on board state in Dromai mirrors. I think Limpet will be huge for regaining board state equity. Um, yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of moving pieces to this Gravy Bones deck, but it'll be pretty cool when people start figuring it out. Oh, also, just to illustrate that card draw can come in many forms in this game. Sometimes it's not actually when it draws you a card, but there's a really sweet card called Give No Quarter, which is a Pirate Necromancer action, blue, zero cost, three block card that says the next two ally cards with Watery Grave you play this turn cost three resources less to play. So if you have two uh, three cost allies in your graveyard and you play Give No Quarter, then after you play Give No Quarter, you have played a blue card, which means a blue card has been put into your graveyard. So any allies in your graveyard, any watery grave cards in your graveyard can be played. So you can turn a one card hand of Give No Quarter into six effective resources and throw two allies into play from that. Um, there's they also can they don't have to be from the graveyard to do it, but like this is one of those cards where you know pe- breaking fundamental tenets of the math of Flesh and Blood. This card is a blue card that it's a blue block three at its base, right? That can only ever be so bad, and at its best, it is a blue block three that says I am pitching two blues for you. Which is absurd, which is just absolutely absurd. And even if it's not giving you, the full six resources worth of value, even if that card gives you four or five resources worth of value, you're still trading up in a big way. So I think Give No Quarter is uh, it's gonna effectively be the tome. It's gonna be his tome
of Imperial
card.
Flame.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll let you flood from the graveyard off of very low cards in hand, and and that's just really strong. Um, what else? What else? Oh, thank you to LSS and whoever else decided that there would only be like actually literally two pure necromancer cards in the set because you saved my wallet big time because I'm totally gonna hyper swag out a demonastery necromancer, but I'm not so much into the pirate necromancer to the same extent. So I only need EA dead threads and then a fancy version of whatever the other missing necromancer card is, presumably. Um, so yeah, just I appreciate that one. Uh, let's see what else. Oh, Sea Lace Sarong, new Ranger leg legendary equipment. It is a Blade Break 2 leg equipment, which at base value that's just good. That's very good, even if it was blank. Maybe not legendary worthy, but very good. Uh, but the ability on Sea Lace Sarong is instant tap the Sarong, turn a blue arrow in your arsenal face up. It gets go again this turn. Uh, so my prediction on Sarong is well, actually, there's a whole cycle of harpoon attacks that they're printing seemingly for Marlin that all have the Go Fish ability. So when this hits a hero, they choose and reveal a card from their hand. If it's blue, they discard it and you create a gold token. If you've activated a cannon this turn, instead you look at their hand and you choose the card. Um, but a 2 for 4 that on hit takes a card from your opponent, like at again on a blue 3 block, is very good. And the cannon costs 3 resources to activate. So you're wait, it's 4 to activate? Oh, that's so much worse than I thought.
It's still 2 blues
It's still
because
yeah.
because uh, the harpoons cost 2.
Okay, okay. So yeah, that's fair. So they sort of they make it work in its own weird way, but uh so firing an overpower harpoon costs 6 resources. This is not Azalea. This is a ranger that's going to play. If you're trying to play this cannon, that's a 30 blue deck easy, easy. Especially
Yep.
like when you have good blues like these harpoon cards, um, that you can like consider a chunk of your blue base to also be power cards. That's very potent. Um, and when you play a really heavy Ranger blue deck, you're going to play Codex, you're going to Ponder, you're going to do other things like that. And sometimes some clunky blue arrows are just, they're kind of stuck or whatever. But, you know, cool. I end my turn, I Ponder, I put whichever blue harpoon into my arsenal. And, next turn I can dump 2 blues and swing 8 overpower, give it go again because Sea Lace Sarong flipped it up at the start of turn, and then continue, right? Like crack a gold, load up again, fire another arrow. It's yeah, that ability I think is going to be
Also,
extremely
if the
potent.
sea lace gives one of these harpoons go again, and it hits probably because it's going to be coming for 8 overpower, likely to hit, then I'm going to get to choose a card to discard. I'm going to make it gold, which then if I have like an extra card, then since I have go again, I can just pitch into said gold, draw a card, assuming it's an arrow or a codex or whatever. Use Marlon's ability since I've drawn. I can reload and shoot another arrow if I wanted to, or play codex or three of a kind or whatever.
Yeah, it's just it's gonna be strong. I think that card like I think it
Also,
compares
even
very favorably to uh, Spellbound Creepers in terms of the juice that's behind that card. I think it
yeah,
will withstand the
and
test
it's
of time, and you get to use it all game, and then it's still just Blade Rake 2. When you need 2 health, it's there.
yeah, it's also if Marlon is going to be using New Horizon, uh, she does not have Lexi's hero ability just to flip a card face up in her arsenal to get a second arsenal slot. So the Sea Lace will be probably Marlon's main way of like, I'll have a face down card, a blue that I like pondered last turn. Let me flip it up, get a second arsenal slot, go again, and then play out my turn from there, depending on what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. What else? What else? Barbed Barrage is a card that exists that is going to help Ranger deal with allies and potentially uh,
Spectra.
Spectra in other in older formats probably. But it's a 1 for 5 Ranger Arrow 3 block red Majestic. As an additional cost to play this, you may pay 3 resources. If you do, this attacks an additional target. So if you target 2 different Spectras with this, you will kill both Spectras. If you target a person's face and 1 Spectra, you will kill a Spectra and you will fail to hit their face. If you attack someone's face and their ally, you will be attacking both. We're not exactly sure how priority within that window works as far as like, uh, well, actually, no, I do remember them saying that uh, if you barbed barrage at Prism and also at one of her flipped angels for a ward, the ward will get popped to prevent damage before, like, you still get the ward if you're attacking face, if that makes sense. That's the only timing information that I have gained. Uh, and then you can just, you can attack 2 allies and hit them both, and there's nothing they can do about it. So, very neat tool to have in the arsenal for a class that, you know, is normally prone to suffering against heavy ally-based strategies, or could historically. Um,
Yep.
my pick for I think my favorite card in the set at this point, or like neatest design in my mind, is a Ranger block card called Return Fire. It's a 4 defense block that says when this defends, you may banish an arrow from your hand. If you do, at the start of your next turn, put it face up in your arsenal and it gets +3 until end of turn. And I'm just looking at that card, and all I see is a 0 for 7 that doesn't cost you an action point because you use it on their turn.
Yep, I think it's really good.
Yep.
I think it's the best card that Ranger's gotten so far.
Yeah. Uh, and the art is really, really sweet. I think that was Carolina's spoiler, and I think she did a phenomenal job with that one. Um,
Yep.
and also shout out to Max Ferocity for her really, really epic Cogworks Blunderbuss cosplay. Like she made the gun, and it was remarkably accurate and just really sweet looking. Um, yeah, all the spoilers that I have seen people have done a phenomenal job with. So keep up the good work, Pab community. Um, but yeah, return fire literally is a 0 for 7. It kind of blows my mind, and I've seen people be like, "Oh well, if you don't have a card in Arsenal already, that's a bad thing." I'm like, that's fair, but not every Ranger is going to be Lexi Azalea in terms of like Azalea. You make a real big priority to keep an Arsenal at all times because it unlocks so many more avenues for you on every subsequent turn. Well, not every ranger is going to play out the same way. And if you're playing a ranger that, isn't super prioritizing having an arsenal at the end of every turn, this card is a 0 for 7. That is insane. Card's good. You should play it.
Yep.
Um, what else? Which would have what stood out to you?
Uh, it's a great question. I think Marlin looks super cool. I think it's uh interesting combo that you can do with Death Dealer, like loading an arrow face up and then drawing a card, and then now Marlin says that you've drawn a card, so you get to load another arrow face up. And if you're running New Horizon, then you just get to load 2 arrows. Uh, that's pretty cool. Pair that with Try Shot, where you get to uh, use Death Dealer 3 times in a turn, and also perhaps Perch Grapplers to give all your arrows that go in face up go again this turn. That could lead to some pretty gross turns. Also, just uh, 3 of a kind and a heavy blue deck uh, just means that you can pitch a blue for 3 of a kind, and then if you draw one of the harpoons, that's a 2 for 6. You draw it, and then assuming 2 blues because you're running a ton of blues, then you can just load it because you've drawn a card, and then activate the cannon, shoot it for 10 overpower. On hit, I look at your hand and discard a card and make a gold. Turns out 3 of a kind, still good value play, even not in
Who'd have
Lexi.
thought? Who'd have thought?
Yeah,
Draw 3 cards is good.
yeah.
I think the one
C and C is also a cool pirate card. Conqueror of the High Seas cost 4. I think that's one of the first spoilers we saw.
yeah.
I think a lot of people should have seen that one by now, but that's cool.
Yeah, that card makes me excited for pure pirate in the future, since they've confirmed pirate is a class and not a talent. Like the pirate stuff looks cool to me, but just I don't know, the combos in this set aren't hyper appealing. But at some point, I'll play some pirate.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
Midas Touch is a new generic action. It's a yellow. Uh, oh my goodness, I might have lost Alex. Hopefully he comes back, but I'll keep going on a couple more of these generics, and we'll see how it goes. Um, so Midas Touch is a yellow generic action, costs 1, blocks 3, that says destroy target ally. Its controller creates gold tokens equal to its cost. Go again. So Midas Touch is some. Hey, Alex is back. Huzzah! No longer frozen. I was
see, that's
just
funny because on my screen you were frozen. I could still hear you.
Oh, interesting.
That's very strange. Very
Huh.
strange.
Well, Midas Touch is pretty cool. It's the first generic, like just straight up destroy target ally, like targeted card that exists. I think. Um, there's a
Yeah,
worse
so
version of this card that's called Slay.
I was gonna say, how would you compare it to Slay, the red no block that only targets angels?
Infinitely better.
It costs 0 though. Midas Touch costs 1.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I don't know, but it's also like a three block and has go like I don't know. It's
Yeah.
Slay.
Also,
Slay should have just said ally. It could be a red instant if it just said ally. That's all. That's all they had to change. And then you could be
uh,
like, oh well, if and also if it's a an angel that it kills, they also lose a life or something. But
um,
this card is huge for guardians. This card is huge for decks that are most turns swinging once per turn. Um, so obviously guardians the biggest culprits there. Um, Historically, the biggest problems dealing with very wide board states. Obviously there's a decent array of go again options that help them clear board better, but this is especially important to be printed now because at least when they were trying to clear board state on Dromai, one card, one popper per hand meant cool. I'm killing one dragon on your turn, and then I will kill at least one on my turn, maybe two. Um, well, turns out that undead allies uh, do not have Phantasm. So there's no popping on the menu. So this is a very important tool in the tool belt of Guardians, and we'll see how the meta shakes out as far as who has problems with the Gravy Bones ally buildup. But
also
it's great for the game that it exists if you need it.
to note, the Dromize Dragons and Prism's Angels do not have a cost, so if you play this against those allies, they won't make any gold.
Correct, 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 correct. However, you will be giving Gravy Bones a shit ton of gold, which is not necessarily the best for you. But if it
Yeah,
lets you kill their 6 cost, 11 power, 7 health ally that they just spent their whole turn playing, then
probably
maybe it's
worth it.
worth it. Uh,
Also, this can be, if you're having trouble, if your local Prism is terrorizing you with uh, transforming Herald of Erudition or Soraya and then playing Arclight Sentinel, you can play Midas Touch, destroy the Angel, and then use your action point to then attack ALS. Clear that whole craziness cell in one turn instead of having to break it up into two.
yeah, yeah. There's some very specific shots fired at ALS in this one. Because you can with that arrow too, they can target two things. So like the main arrow has to target ALS, but I think because the other thing says, or how's it read? Does it say other target? You may attack. It attacks an additional target. So the same target can't be the additional target. So the extra text on barbed barrage gets around ALS and lets it's you can still only
Kill their
clear Spectra
Genesis
with
as
it,
well.
but yeah, yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and then at least the last high C spoiler I want to talk about because it's got me re-hyped on KO for the first time in a while. Is Sea Legs, which is a yellow 3 cost 6 power 3 block generic attack action. So it is a yellow wounded bull. No, a yellow raging onslaught. Excuse me. Uh, Except it has the extra text on it that says, "When this is discarded, create a Gold Kiss Rum token." And the first time that I read Gold Kiss Rum, I just failed. Well, I guess not really reading because it was more the symbol that threw me off than the actual reading. But Gold Kiss Rum is instant. Tap your hero, destroy this token. Your next action this turn gets go again. Your hero can't untap this turn unless they are a pirate. The first time I looked at that card, my brain read it as you can't tap unless you're a pirate, and my brain was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, only pirates drink rum, so you can't drink rum if you're not a pirate." And I'm like, "Yeah, that makes enough flavor sense to me." But I now realize that it's you can't untap this turn unless you're a pirate. Because if you're not a pirate, you can't handle your rum. You get hung over, and you can't drink rum on back-to-back turns. Is basically what they are trying to promote there, which is cool and reasonable, and more importantly, means that Sea Legs is going to be a freaking phenomenal card in KO. It's Beast Within is really good. It's a card you try really hard to discard, and now you have three more cards that you would love to discard to uh, a large number of your your
Yeah, I heard Cast Bone
discard
with Go
effects.
Again. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Seems like it might be good.
exactly. It helps some awkward hand situations where, oh man, I have a Blood Rush Bellows turn set up, but this hand has a Cast Bones. Well, I don't really want to pitch my Cast Bones to play the Blood Rush. Well, you can just run your Cast Bones out with Go Again from Sea Legs and then play out your turn. Like you don't have to compromise it the same way. It's also, you know, Gold Kiss Rum being on demand means, well, okay, I'm going to sit on this, and then no matter what my Blood Rush Bellows turn looks like, I have Gold Kiss Rum, so I can make sure that it's three chain links wide, so that you get that sort of peak value on Blood Rush Bellow, or the baseline peak value. Sometimes you can go four wide, but that's tougher to do. Um, and yeah, it just I think aside from it being a generic, I think that Sea Legs is going to prove to be like I know card draw is insane, but just like people, you're gonna like to discard that even more than Beast Within because Beast Within's random. You can just hit a blue that you have to maybe arsenal or not arsenal, which is even worse. Sometimes you don't want
Extra
to use
action
the
point
points of
on
life, but
demand.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's it'll be very strong. It lets you cut. You don't have to ever run red agile windup anymore, which is great because now you just have like six yellow cards that are agility based, which is better for your resource base. Um, and also, it doesn't have to be random discard. So Sea Legs works great with Assault and Battery, and even you run like Blue Pound Town in the deck as just as part of your blue base. So the beat chest cards just work with it great. So like, if I'm in a matchup as KO where I want to like set up and go for explosive turns, whether I go first or second, I just want my opening hand to be a blue, an assault and battery, and Sea Legs, and you just go like dope. I just stored up two action points for later, and just go off. But yeah, Gold Kiss Rum is going to be very potent, and I'm interested to see if there's more generics that can give other classes access to it.
You think that means that Runner just goes back in, just staple?
It was never out of my version, but I could see why versions did go away from it. But I think now that Sea Legs is here, I think that makes Runner like not quite on par with just straight up swing big, but like closer. It becomes one of the power cards along with Sea Legs because okay, cool, Gold Kiss Rum that gives you go again on one thing. Well, now that one thing you can wait specifically, and you can make sure that you give your runner go again. So that Gold Kiss Rum actually gives you two action points because you get the rum go again and agility that the runner is passing down the line. So it's gonna do a lot for a relatively unassuming generic action. Uh, yeah, for Nats, I'm either on KO, Dory, or Florian right now. I think Gravy Bones seems cool, but A, gonna be crazy expensive because of all the shipping shortages and stuff. And B, I don't I don't want to have to think that hard about board state stuff. If you have to play that mirror match even one time, I struggle to imagine you being able to finish in time, especially if they somehow don't have a weapon for him and he just goes in with a compass and you're like, cool, I hope these hope these allies can get it done.
Uh,
Yep,
silly, silly, silly.
yep. Uh, all right. Well, some closing notes then. Nationals CC meta. We had some bans. We've got some new stuff coming out. Florian is still going to be good. He loses some of his long game, late game equity with Germinate being gone. Um, Particularly like the Jarl matchup, I believe was a pretty key spot where having Germinates for the second cycle was very important. Um, but the deck's not just magically dead. Felling of the Crown is still like an absurd Codex of Frailty power level play in the deck. Um, so expect to see Florian at Nationals for sure. Um, Katsu is probably a real hero again, which is very neat. Uh,
It'll be interesting. He's been gone a long time. It'd be interesting how the the new sets of armor and the new defensive cards. I'm curious how Katsu will deal with all of that because the last time he was like really in his heyday, there wasn't a ton of heroes with a ton of armor, but now there kind of is. So
yeah,
I'm
the
curious how
the
that
average hero
curious how
has a
that'll go.
fridge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Dan will figure it out for us. So
Definitely, yeah. So be on the lookout for that when Dan Grosclose wins U.S. Nationals. As long as he can draft, who knows if he can draft? uh, I
I
think
don't even know how to draft this set, so
just
he's
turns
not
out
missing out on much.
nobody does because nobody knows the set. Yeah, we are less than 3 weeks away from U.S. Nationals, and we don't know the full spoiler for a few more days yet. Love that. Uh, this is definitely this the cards in the set objectively cool. I've liked a lot of the cards that we have seen. I think this is my least favorite rollout of spoilers that they have done to date. Like the way that they did it. Uh, like there was the one spoiler season. It was for Rosetta when they were like, "Oops, all zaps," and a lot of the spoilers were different zap variants, and we were missing a lot of the majestics and the more powerful stuff for constructed. Which I get that they want to delay people brewing. That's very reasonable and admirable goal. Uh, but we have just enough of the spoiler right now for it to be like a little bit frustrating. You can't really brew. It's really tough to try and get a sense of the limited environment. Uh, and we don't. And usually they trickle the expansion slot cards in advance, so to whet people's appetites and tide them over until we get the full spoiler. But we didn't get like any expansion slot cards until last week, and we have two right now. Normally we would have like 12 of 14 or something like that. So there's just it's a weird, it's a very first world problem entitled thing to feel weird about. But like I'm a little frustrated that I can't like be doing something to prep for nationals right now when it's less than 3 weeks away. Um,
Yeah, it's I understand from the LSS point of view that like they want to make the world premiere special, and like if I was going to that event, I'd be super excited. But as a person who can't go to that event, this was the same way it was for Rosetta in Tampa. I wasn't able to go to that one, so like the spoiler season was kind of lackluster for me. But you were at that event, right?
mhm.
And like opening the stuff that nobody knew is like super cool and
I think I
like
posted the first picture of Snuff Out, which is why
yeah.
it's more shameful that I forgot the name of it today. But yeah, but like I cracked that card. I'm like, I haven't seen this. This seems really good. I haven't seen any pictures of this, and posted it away. But
Yeah. So I think that experience is super cool. Um, but as somebody who's going to be playing in U.S. Nationals, um, like either give me just my opinion, give me the expansion slot so I can figure out like okay if I don't like any of the new heroes, like I've already got my back like Fang. Like I don't know if we're getting a if Fang is going to have a new card or not. Um, so like give me that option or like keep all the expansion slots hidden and then give us the commons out of the set too, so that we can start trying to figure out the limited environment a little bit earlier, even though we don't have the cards yet. At least just like figuring out how it's going to play out, at least. Because without the commons, it's hard to do that. And then save all the expansion slot cards to open up and be like, oh wow, this is crazy Herald of Second, like this crazy Prism card.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
like it's just a little bit of each is like you said a bit
yeah.
frustrating
It ended up in a
personally.
weird spot that I just yeah it's not bad. Or and maybe it's like just my expectations was wrong too. If before if when they announced when spoiler season was going to hit, they were like, hey, spoiler season is this time. We're going to reveal you know, a few majestics and some commons and rares from everything, but you're not going to get the full picture of any of the new heroes. And also, we're like sitting on the expansion slot cards this time because you know, there was never a thing like we're always going to spoil expansion slot cards first for you, but they had done that a few times in a row now to the point where like it created a little bit of an expectation. And when they didn't lead with the expansion slot cards, it's just like, oh well, okay, that's a bummer. And then we didn't get the expansion slot cards on the 3 day spoiler season ended, and it's like cool. We still don't know anything. There's still like there's nothing actionable now. Uh,
Yeah, and
or
maybe that's on purpose, and maybe that's the goal, and that's okay if it is. It just wasn't what we
mhm.
were expecting, and
I think if it wasn't specifically tied to U.S. nationals too, I would feel differently. Because so for the rest of the world, national season starts 2 weeks after U.S. Nats, like June 20th in the next few weeks. If our nationals was actually in national season, and instead the week zero event that we were all like thinking about and preparing for was like a double calling, that would feel so much less. I don't know, not stressed about it because I'm not stressed, but like it's
I'm a
this is
little
nationals.
stressed.
It's the one time this year we get to go and try and be U.S. national champion. It's like they're not doing this. They're not doing a week zero pro tour, and I would be very surprised if we ever saw that. So it just I don't know. I don't love the I guess the ramifications to specifically U.S. nationals that this like week
Yeah,
zero timing and really late learning what the cards are. Uh,
this is definitely a me problem, but like I have decent enough elo that if I do well enough at U.S. nationals, I could get a invitation to Worlds off of um, elo, which would be super cool because I'm planning on going to Worlds and not having to buy a PTI would be awesome. Um, but it's like if not knowing any of the set, like now 6 of my rounds, which are draft, which I love drafting, but it's just it's a little bit stressful, like not knowing like what I'm about to play, even though like the stakes are like
yeah,
I mean the real
and
stakes are nothing because it's a card game, but it's like I
yeah,
want to do well at this event so that I
you,
can
you get a
like
maximum
go to a
of
future event.
maybe 5 drafts that you can possibly do, right? If you hit up a full weekend of local uh, pre-releases, and they all have enough people to where they can sort of change their format so that you drafted each of those, you can maybe do 5 drafts in paper before you draft for real on day zero of set release at US Nationals for things that matter in this game, which is,
Yeah.
elo and potentially money and stuff. But like, it's going to be like product hasn't been opened yet in all likelihood, so that there's a file that gets generated that they share around so people can do practice drafts online and stuff. There's gonna be no practice. Everyone's just gonna go into this thing kind of uh, a little bit
I was
clueless.
talking with some people in the Team Covenant Discord today about it. And it's like, yes, I could go to everybody at my pre-release and be like, hey, can you like open up your pack and take a picture of it, and then so that we can rebuild that later and like draft with it again. But I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I that's an option, I guess, but
And if US Nats was actually during Nats season and this was a double calling instead, again, different stress level, right? Because you'd have day one that's sealed, and you get to be exposed to the cards and then go home and look at the full spoiler before you go draft the next day. We'll have the or get we'll have had the spoiler by that point in time because we've had the world premiere. But once packs start getting open, people can figure out pack composition and they can make that file and people can practice. And then at that point, you'd be like, okay, cool. Now there's 2 weeks where you can legally, sanctionedly get practice because, like, you can't get paper product. Like, I know you can buy some at pre-releases, but you can't be like, oh, I need to get a case and then meet up with all my friends and draft because they're you're not, and especially problematic with the high seas allocation that's happening thanks to all the stupid fucking tariffs out there. Thanks for that one, you fucking orange moron. And yeah, it's just it's not all LSS's fault, but like it could have it could have been a little US Nats friendlier, I guess. And also, I'm still sad that there's not a calling at somebody else's Nats that the US people can go to.
Yeah.
But all right, well that's enough. That's enough rambling and spoilers and meta spoiler talk and
And,
everything.
and and real quick, I don't want to. I feel like ending on the low note of us complaining. Like, I'm still like excited for the weekend, and I'm gonna get to hang out with my friends and play my favorite game. But
Yeah, it's gonna be sick. I just wish that we could be preparing right now. I wish we could end this episode and then be like, dope. Well, since we know our new expansion slots, let me jam Florian with this secret new Uber combo with Germinate card into Hatchet Story or Azalea
yeah,
or whatever else.
yeah,
But yeah, it's kind of all testing is moot when we don't know what the expansion slots and all the other new stuff is. But we
yeah,
still love this game. It's great. We're gonna go to Vegas. It's gonna be a blast. LSS is great. Their communication is still unrivaled in the industry, and we appreciate them. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for dealing with the rambles, and we will see you all next time for episode 32. See ya.